All right, welcome to our second lesson for Chapter 9. Chapter 9 is all about non-renewable energy, specifically fossil fuels for this first part. Last lesson, we talked about the different types of fossil fuels. This lesson and the next, we're going to talk about the issues with fossil fuels. And this one, we're going to focus on coal. So learning objective is that you will be able to explain the impacts that mining and using coal has on the environment. So issues related with the use of fossil fuels, coal specifically, just a reminder that fossil fuels supply 80% of the energy consumed worldwide. So even though these are non-renewable, they will run out eventually. It still makes up what we use the most to get energy. Coal is the most abundant fossil fuel. It is the easiest kind of to find and there is just a lot of it. So we've been using coal for a really long time, and right now what we use coal for primarily is generating electricity. And there are a few different types of coal. So there are 4 categories. There's lignite, subbituminous, bituminous, and then anthracite. I mentioned this briefly in the last lesson, but what makes them different is the percent of moisture, the volatile compounds, components, which is like makes it burn, and then fixed carbon, and fixed carbon is where the energy is. So the first is that we're going to talk about is lignite. Peat is on its way to becoming coal, but isn't really coal. So lignite has a lot of moisture, not a ton of energy. It's very crumbly. It's the least desirable form. It's not used as much. Subbituminous has lower moisture and higher carbon than lignite does, so more carbon, less moisture, and it's used as fuel for power plants. So mostly what we're burning to, create energy, electricity. Bituminous is low moisture and high carbon content, so even less moisture than subbituminous and more carbon. Used in power plants and other industries as such as steel making. And it's the most widely used because it's the easiest to mine and is the most abundant. So I might have said subbituminous is the most used. My mistake. It is bituminous is the most frequently used. It's also used in power plants for generating electricity and then also in industry like the steel making. And then last but certainly not least is anthracite. This has the highest carbon. It's almost completely carbon and it is pretty rare. It's used primarily in heating buildings and then for specialty uses. So to use coal, we have to get coal. So that's called extraction. And there's 2 extraction methods. There is surface mining, which is also called strip mining. And this is removing material on top of a vein, which is super efficient but destructive. So basically we have a vein of coal running underground and we just peel away the top of the surface to get to the coal. So super efficient. But that has a huge impact on the surrounding area. The other option is underground mining, and that minimizes the surface disturbance, so it's not affecting the local environment quite as much, but it is very expensive and it is very dangerous. And one health concern with coal extraction is that the miners can suffer from black lung disease, which is a respiratory condition that results from breathing in that fine coal dust and then it builds up in your lungs. So this is showing those 2 different modes. So over here we have the underground mining methods. So there's an elevator that goes under, or you can go through a slope mine or into a mountain. But we are going through shafts. And then this is surface mining. So we have the coal bed. We're trying to get to this coal down here, and they literally just scrape along and remove the surface area to get to that coal. So this was once a strip mine, so surface mining, that has slowly but surely been reclaimed by nature. And then these are issues that we can see with underground mining. So even though we're going underground, we're not removing the surface area. It does cause some weakness and there can be some collapses that happen, which makes them not safe. And then one of the last issues that we're going to talk about with mining specifically is acid mine drainage. So acid mine drainage occurs when the combined action of oxygen, water, and then bacteria causes sulfur and coal to form sulfuric acid. It is sulfuric acid is not something that we want to mess with, not something we want to deal with, but it's what happens when we're mining from mining for coal, there is sulfur in coal that's released, and it reacts with that oxygen, water, and some bacteria to create sulfuric acid. All right, and then the last concern that we're going to talk about with coal is transportation. So coal is bulky and causes some transport problems. And then mining also creates dust. Burning coal releases pollutants like carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, and mercury, all things we don't want too much of in our atmosphere. Millions of tons of material are released into the atmosphere annually. Mercury is released into the air when coal is burned, and then increased amounts of atmospheric carbon dioxide are implicated in global warming. And then sulfur dioxide also causes acid precipitation, which we will talk about in a later lesson. All right, that is the end of this one, focusing on the issues with coal. Next lesson, we will talk about oil and natural gas. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you in the next one.